the residents of your state, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was just released from pretrial detention on Friday. But the Trump administration's instructed him to report to ICE within 72 hours for deportation to Uganda. He's originally from El Salvador. He was mistakenly deported to that prison in El Salvador and then returned to the U.S. This is federal policy. This is not state policy. But I do wonder, is there anything that you are doing to help his family stay united?
Yeah, what we know is that, and all we're asking for is that the Constitution be followed on this. The Constitution is very clear about how we deal with these types of issues. And when we look at what's happened in this situation, it's the president manipulating the fact that we have a very broken immigration system inside this country. But instead of actually doing the work that it requires to fix it, actually working in Congress to come up with a comprehensive immigration bill, the president is just working to exploit the brokenness. And I am very clear that there is no higher priority for me than public safety.
You want him to face a day in court, in other words.
Absolutely. I want due process. I just simply want a court and a judge to decide what is going to be the future fate of this case and all cases like this, and not simply the President of the United States or the Secretary of Homeland Security, who's trying to be judge, juror, prosecutor, and executioner inside this case. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe that that's what we should follow for this case.
I got a doozy one for you guys. So we've been talking about illegal immigration, crime. It's a crime, federal crime. And what's the consequences for coming into this country illegally? It's a very simple question. I don't know why Democrats try to overcomplicate this stuff, because they know they don't have a very effective counter to what Donald Trump is doing. Oh, we have a broken immigration system. Yes, we have a broken immigration system because people like you, Democrat, Wes Moore, politically benefit from having illegals in your census, in your town, in your state, in your district, because it helps boost your numbers, giving you more representation, more power, right? You see illegals as a Democratic voter. And the more you can import them into the country, the better it is for your party. And this is one of the political interests that I point out of why you and your party go out of your way to protect people who actively break federal law to come into this country illegally. Why Gavin Newsom, the leader of your party, his government issues CDL licenses to illegals who barely can speak English. And when they cause a car accident and kill 3 people, you're sitting here trying to push the blame on the Republican Party. When everything don't go Democrats' way, they always blame a Republican. And I think this kind of performative antics from the Democratic Party is one of the most unappealing things as a young man that pushes me away from them. Because all I see from them is them selling me BS. And how many times do Democrats have to be wrong about these stuff? Because one thing I noticed about Republicans, they try to push things that prevent things from happening, while Democrats try to pretend that things aren't happening. Like they just try to say that crime in Chicago is a manufactured crisis. Yes, a Democrat actually said that. Make that make sense. Or check out this clip here 4 months ago of Jake Tapper trying to make this argument. Oh, I don't understand why there needs to be a law to learn English. Do you think illegals not knowing English is dangerous? Hindsight is 2020.
Today, President Trump's expected to sign an executive order mandating that truck drivers demonstrate proficiency in speaking English. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy today on X posted, quote, "Stay tuned. Today, POTUS and I will be making a big announcement to make our roadways safer and put American truckers first," unquote. How would this English speaking requirement make our roadways safer? And what would you say to someone who argues it's a slippery slope that could be used against other professions, and that just because you don't speak English doesn't mean that you're in this country illegally?
Well, we're doing possibility versus probability. It's possible that if you don't know English, that you may be an American citizen, but the probability is very high that you're here in the country illegally. I'm just saying that's one telltale sign, because I know from observation growing up in Miami, Florida, that people who had no understanding of English are more likely to be an illegal than a legal migrant in this country. Because legal migrants, they came here the right way. And if you come here the right way, which is the first sign of respect of a country, then I believe you're more likely to understand or at least make an attempt to grasp the language, versus an illegal who has no respect for your country, who think they're entitled to your country. They think they can break through the front door of your house, and they believe that you should treat them like an honored guest. they're less willing to assimilate or adopt the language because they don't have no respect for your country in the first place because they came here illegally. Now that's just me making an assumption there, but we're playing the odds there. And with the hindsight that we have now in 2025, Jake Tapper 4 months ago, how can this English speaking requirement make our roadways safer? Last week, an illegal alien made an illegal U-turn, killed 3 Americans in Florida. And this is something that's very obvious because I talked about when I initially talked about that story about the illegal trucker that killed 3 Floridians. I talk about how in Ohio or in some rural city somewhere, an illegal drove on the wrong side of the road and caused a horrific accident. And this is the kind of dangers that, Democrats and their policies, while they're trying to sit here and tug at your heartstrings by saying, oh, we just want to follow due process. This is the result of them trying to create this slippery slope. Because the slippery slope that I want to point out here is that allowing people to come into your country illegally and rewarding these people, protecting these people who broke the law in the first place to get in the country, it's already starting off on the wrong foot. And to accept that or to allow that without any consequences is emboldening it, is encouraging it. And you're encouraging more people like this Abrego guy to feel entitled to your country. And what do they offer? You're mad that we're going to deport him to Uganda when we try to deport him to his home country where he can actually speak and understand the language. Liberals were mad. So you want him to stay in a country where he can barely speak or understand the language, where he has to have a translator next to him just to appeal to the American people. And you think I'm supposed to have sympathy for that? No. If you come into my house, take off your shoes. But if you feel like, I don't want to take off my shoes, then get out of my house. If you can't speak my language, get out of my country. And especially that you broke into the country, like, make it make sense. But I want to play this clip because this doesn't make these illegals, they make the case for Trump. And it's so funny how Democrats bend over backwards, twisting themselves into pretzels, actively trying to defend these people, but these people out of their own mouths prove every day why we shouldn't tolerate that. We shouldn't tolerate people who cut the line over people who actually sit there and go through the immigration process the right way. And they call it a broken immigration system because it's not going fast enough to their liking. Well, if we stop rewarding people who come over this country illegally, maybe it will be a better system. But I know one thing, whatever the Democrats are offering is not the correct path to creating a comprehensive border or immigration process. I think what they're doing is causing more incentive for people to break the law. But I digress. Let's get into the clip.
Un milagro, gracias a Dios y gracias a toda la comunidad.
This was a miracle. Thank you to God and thank you to the community power.
Y por eso quiero decirles las gracias a cada uno de ustedes que marcharon, levantaron sus voces y oraron y nunca dejaron de creer y luchar por mi libertad.
And this is why I want to thank each and every one of you who marched, lift your voices, never stopped praying, and continued to fight in my name.
Gracias a mi pareja de vida, mi esposa Jennifer, mi hermano César, mi madre Cecilia, y toda mi...
Look how these people weaponize your empathy just to get their way, right? This is a very manipulative tactic. Like, look, my life, I've been around people who do this type of stuff. They're caught in the wrong, and all of a sudden, that's when the tears come. They're not crying because they understand they did something wrong. They're crying because they got caught, and now they're trying to appeal to your sympathy to show you mercy, right? And this is what he's doing. This is what he's trying to appeal to people's emotions. And this is how, like, liberals, if I'm looking at you guys very positively here, this is how people take advantage of your sympathy. They use and abuse your sympathy to come into this country illegally, cause trouble in our country, right? And then when he's found by the proper authorities, hey, it's time, your time to go back to your home country, he crying how this is his home now. How this is your home now when you broke into here? Like, no one invited you. You just broke in. And now I'm supposed to roll out the red carpet. And because you shed some tears, I'm supposed to leave you here. Where's that for American citizens when they commit a crime? Oh, it was a mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to harm this person. I was just so angry. I lost control of myself. I have 3 kids at home. Don't put me into jail. Hey, that person you just killed, he had a family. He had parents that cared about him. He had people that wish he was here right now. And he's not here anymore because of your negligence, because of the decisions and actions you took. And you have to suffer the consequences for that. Same thing with illegal immigration. You came into this country illegally. You didn't come here through the right way. You being here deprive a legal immigrant even longer to come here the right way. And if we let you stay here, what message are we sending those people who are doing, who's waiting through the immigration process the correct way? Oh, they want us to do that. They want us to cut the line. They don't respect us listening to their laws, abiding by their process correctly because they let this guy stay in the country because he shed some tears after he got caught. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. This is the incentives that Democrats want to push into this country. And America said no. 57% of Americans want mass deportation. This man's trying to appeal to a minority of people who majority of the country they're not hearing. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to spare any sympathy, because what illegals have miscalculated is they took Americans' kindness for weakness. A lot of Americans, and I speak for myself when I say this, a lot of Americans feel like they got taken advantage of. Like we're being taken advantage of by foreigners, by the Democratic Party, and we just said we had enough. You want to call Donald Trump a bully? He's our bully. He's bullying you on behalf of us because we felt like we've been taken advantage of. We've been bullied. We've been gaslight. Oh, you have to be happy illegals are here, taking your jobs, undercutting your wages, right? Becoming cheap labor, so corporations don't have to negotiate with you, labor unions. And this is why the labor unions overwhelmingly broke for Trump. Because blue dog Democrats, that's what Democrats used to be called, used to understand that mass immigration is at the detriment of labor unions. This is why I laugh when liberals come out here talking about how Democrats are the party of the working class. Where? You seen the stats? The majority of people who make less than $100,000 a year overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. But Democratic Party pretending that they're still the part of the working class, when everything that the Democratic Party does hurts the working class. Working class is more likely to work in high crime areas. Who's soft on crime? Democrats. Illegals. Having mass illegal immigration concentrated in an area will suppress wages because corporations can go around the U.S. citizen and just hire cheap labor and illegal immigrants. I just finished watching a bunch of videos, and sorry for this long-winded video, but I feel like I have to air this out. I just finished watching a video about how people are complaining about the quality of construction homes lately in new build construction. And I always talk about how, hey, constructions are one of those industries that hire a lot of illegal immigrants because they're cheap labor. I wonder how many of these homes were constructed by people who are illegal immigrants in this country, who wouldn't care about the craftsmanship of a house, who would do shoddy work and do shortcuts and cut corners. Because a lot of these builders, they contract this work out. They contract building a house to other companies. And I wonder how many of them hire illegals. But no one wanted to think this deeply about how policies create outcomes, how policies create incentive structures that create the situation and outcomes that we're all experiencing today. But I digress. That's just something I was thinking about in the top of my head. Let's continue with the video.
Familia,
Thank you to my life partner and wife, Jennifer, to my brother, Cesar, to my mother, Cecilia, to my children, to my nieces and nephews, to all of my family.
gracias a casa, mi segunda casa, a mi sindicato SMART, a todos los pastores, a todas las iglesias, organizaciones y mis equipos legales.
Thank you to Casa, my second home, to my union, SMART, to all of the organizations, all of the faith leaders, all of the partners, and my legal team.
Me he enterado cómo la comunidad me ha apoyado, me ha abrazado con tanto amor y solidaridad.
I have come to know how the community has stood up with so much support and has hugged me with so much solidarity.
I feel like, people who are gonna watch this video, they're gonna be like, Kenny, your heart is like cold. Your heart has gone cold. And I said, how could it not be? Like, I'm seeing a group of people who barely contribute to this country, right? If you're looking at tax dollars, they get paid under the table. Their presence here is used as a way to undermine Americans' workforce, right? Americans' unemployment, right? Remember during the Biden administration, there was more foreign-born workers than native-born workers in the economy, participating in the economy. And I feel like, yo, that's like me taking care of kids that are not mine better than my own flesh and blood. And our government should not be treating us this way. They shouldn't be prioritizing a guy who can barely speak one word of English, yet his lawyer states that he shouldn't be deported to Uganda because he doesn't speak their language. Hilarious. Adios. Adios, amigo. I agree with you. You shouldn't be in a country where you can't speak their language. Goodbye. And that's how many Americans are seeing it. Especially when I see that you had a criminal record. Apparently, there's allegations against you from your wife, or I don't know if she's your current wife, ex-wife. I don't know. Someone filed a report against you saying you're doing something to her. Who knows? And you're in here illegally. You wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. And then we keep seeing outcome after outcome of us tolerating this stuff. And when Tom Homan came out and said there's going to be a zero tolerant policy, America said yes. And instead of understanding, yes, I understand if people were mass immigrating into Mexico and they didn't want to assimilate to Spanish and it was causing a lot of problems for the native-born Mexicans in Mexico, many Mexicans will be like, yes, deport all these Americans out of our country. But now when it's reversed, they're on the end of this. They're on the other end of the stick. They want us to have sympathy. They want us to have understanding. But we've been tolerating this for a long time. And a lot of you illegals, your guys are being used as political pawn for Democrats' gain. That's the only reason they sit here throwing the red carpet at you, putting you in front of national TV. It's not that they care about your personal well-being. You're a means to an end for the Democratic Party. You're a pawn in their little political game, so that way they can gain more political leverage over our over our government. So they can have more control. So that way, just like you guys help suppress wages and circumvent the working class Americans, they're using illegals to circumvent the will of the American people. 70% of Americans want only Americans to be counted as part of the census, which directs our distribution of Congress across the 50 states in America. But Democrats want to count you guys in it because you help them with their gerrymandering. Right? 57% of Americans want mass deportation. Yet here you are telling the country, no, you shouldn't do it because of I'm so special. Who the hell are you? What's a man to a nation? And this is the funny part. I don't know. I'm just done tolerating this stuff. Because when I do something bad, I don't tolerate it for myself. So why the hell you expect me to tolerate your mess? Seek to understand before you can be understood. That's something that I was always taught. And it seemed like a lot of these illegals, you guys are very entitled. And I think a lot of Americans are just tired of it. We're tired of the entitlement. You're not entitled to our country. But, Democrats make you feel that way, maybe because, you benefit them politically, but you don't benefit Americans. And Democrats only represent 30% of Americans. And Trump made the case, and a lot of Americans heard Trump's case, and that's why he's president now. But, I digress. I'll leave it up there. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. Your feelings personally about illegal immigration. Do you think that Trump's approach of mass deportation is effective? Do you think there's a better way to get the same outcomes, but without looking as cruel? Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comments section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if it's so kind. It really does help me on the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.